All right, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and I've been going over this set of getting started with ASP.NET MVC 5 from Microsoft. And so far, I've gone through the getting started and adding a controller articles. It's time to jump into adding a view. I do have something printing in the background. I apologize for that. So if you hear a little bit of extra noise, that's why you're hearing it. So, in this section, as the author says, we're going to modify our Hello World controller class so that it uses view template files rather than printing our stuff out directly in the controller. We're going to encapsulate, segregate, whatever you want to call it, the process of generating our HTML responses to the client. So we're going to create a view template file, and we're going to use what's called the Razor View Engine. Notice that's hyperlinked, so if you want more. What Razor does is it's a fairly new invention by Microsoft that allows you, in just the same way you can do things kind of like embed PHP, for example, inside of HTML files. You can do that, but if you embed PHP inside of an HTML file, it's got to be a PHP file. Here, we can embed server-side ASP.NET code into our HTML file, but then we have to change our extension to CS HTML, meaning C# HTML. And as it says, it provides an elegant way to create HTML output using C#. The idea is it minimizes the number of characters and keystrokes required. All right. So currently, if we look at the index method, all right, it returns a message with a string that's hard-coded. So right now, if we go back into our project and we look at our Hello World controller, we've got our index, which returns this, and our welcome, which returns this. Let's put the welcome on the back burner for now, and let's take this and comment it out. And let's add what is mentioned here on the middle of page 1, and that is return view. All right. Right now, if we do that, it's sure not going to do very much. In fact, notice we're getting an error message, and it says cannot implicitly convert. Well, that means that we have to go back and previously, if you remember, and I should put that in there and comment it out, previously, we had put in there public action result index. That's what we had in there to begin with. Then we changed it to a string when we returned this string. Now, we'll comment that out and we'll put back in what we had in here originally. All right, and you notice the error goes away. So this index method is going to use a view template, and in that view template, we're going to have our HTML response, which we'll send back to the browser. Controller methods, as mentioned in the handout here, are also known as action methods. In fact, if you want more, again, notice that's hyperlinked. So if you want to get more on there, you can. Generally, action methods return an action result, which again is, as you can see, hyperlinked, or a class derived from action result, not a primitive type, which is what we had with a string. So we want to right mouse click on our views, Hello World, and we want to add a view. So again, I'm going to just follow the steps as they're shown right here. So I'm on the bottom of page 1, going into page 2. So going back to our actual, sorry, every once in a while I get a feeling I haven't been taping. Okay, so we're going to go back here. All right, and we're going to go back to our views, Hello World, which is right here, which now has nothing in it. We're going to right mouse click on it and choose add. And now we want to add an MVC view page with layout razor. All right, and when we do that, we are asked as we saw with the controller, to specify a name in this specify name for item dialog box. Okay? So it says in here, it says enter index and click the OK button. All right? Now in here we're asked under this select the layout page, this is page 3 of our handout, it says in the select the layout page dialog, accept the default name. You're best off most of the time working with the default stuff in here. This stuff is automatically set up so that something bings off of something else, it bings off of something else, etc. And when I say Bing here, I don't mean the Bing browser. I mean as it goes back and forth, Bing, Ping, whatever you want to call it, it's all done with a different naming convention. So I'm going to accept the default and I'm going to click OK. So now in my Hello World, you'll notice I now have an About, I have a Contact, and I have an Index in here. I'm sorry, there it is. And it's saying for my layout, I should go into my views, I should find shared, and I should be using the underscore layout file, which is this one. If this doesn't look familiar to you, this, for example, in here, this is what built the menu we see at the top of our screen when we run this. All right. So what this just did, and I'm taking a short story, unfortunately, and making it long, is under our MVC movie project, under our views menu, it went in and under our Hello World, it created this index.cshtml file. Okay? Now, we are supposed to add the following code to this file. All right, we're leaving this, but we're going to add some code to it. Anytime you want to be able to add razor code, so this file is a combination of HTML and C#. We have to put the stuff within the delimiters, as you see right here. So we have to start it with an @ sign followed by a curly brace. All right, and now we're saying viewbag dot title equal index. Now that doesn't look like much, all right? And then after this, so that was C#, but now we're going to put in an H2 tag, and we're going to say index. Again, I'm following the exact instructions on the bottom of page 4, and then just a paragraph tag that says hello from our view template. All right? So that's what we have right now inside of our index.cshtml file. Then we're told to right mouse click on this file and run it directly. So I'm going to type view in browser. There's other ways we could have done it as well. This is what's shown in page 5 of the book, or of the article here. It says we could have also right mouse clicked and chosen view in page inspector, and they have a whole tutorial. So they have a whole tutorial here if you want to know more about the page inspector. So I'm not going to say another word about it, all right? So we jump over to here, and what it says is we could have also browsed to the Hello World. So you see what this looks like, index hello from our Hello World template. So I'm going to go back to our home page, or attempt to. So I want to go back to the home page. There it is. The author says we could have also went over here and said / hello world, and you'll notice that got us there also. Or we could have gone, well, I guess it doesn't like me whipping back and forth like this, but I think this will work, where we went hello world / welcome. All right, and okay, so let's go back over to here, and we'll just say hello world welcome. We'll do it from here on this run. Yeah, it's running an old cached version, so let me run the program again. All right, I just want to show you that the other way we could have gone to this, I didn't want hello world index is fine. If this comes up and it says index hello from our view template, I've shown you what I want to show you. Notice it's still loading. Takes almost an inordinate amount of time considering the amount of code that's in there. And there we have it. So the author says, this looks pretty good, but notice the browser title bar shows index myasp.net application up here. And a big link at the top of the page that says application name right there. The author says, depending on how small you make your browser, you might need to click 3 bars in the upper right to see home, about, register, etc. So what they're saying is, since this is set up like this, you might have to click that. All right, that's what they mean by the 3 bars. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to change the name here at the top of the page. That text is going to be common to every page. And actually, as mentioned on page 7 of the handout or the article here, it's actually implemented in only one place, even though it appears on, everywhere on the page. So let's first go look at where it actually is defined. So the author says in here, if we go out to views and we go to the shared folder, and we open this layout CS.html, the one that's right here, this is called a layout page, and it's the shared folder for every other page of the application to use. These layout templates, like this one right here, as mentioned on the top of page 9 in this article, allow you to specify the HTML container layout of the site in one place and then apply it across multiple site pages. They want us to find where it says render body, which is right here. Render body is a placeholder where all the view-specific pages you create show up. They're wrapped in the layout page. For example, it says if you select the About link, all right, then that's going to show the about.cs HTML view rendered inside of here. All right, so they want us to change the contents of the title element. So somewhere in here it says application name. Okay, well, let's search for it. There it is, right there. So they want us to change the application name that's right here. In fact, we can close this now. We want to change this from application name to MVC movie. All right, and the controller from home right there to movies. Which, of course, that isn't right. All right. So I've made the changes as shown on page 9 in the text. I'm going to save, and I'm going to run the application again. I'm on page 10 of our handout here. Okay? And the author says, notice it says MVC movie, and if we click about, it still says MVC movie. So we were able to make the change once in that layout template that is shared by all the pages on the site, and that has reflected the new title. Okay? All right. Bottom of page 11. When we first created the views hello world index.cshtml, it contained the following. So let's go back. Let's stop the run. And stop the run. All right. And we want our index.cshtml. At first, it had only those top 3 lines in it. The Razor code that was there explicitly set the layout page. Now, what they want us to do next is to use the layout property that's in here, and they want us to change the title of the index view here. So where we have here viewbag.title equal index, we're going to change that from index to movie list. And we'll change the H2 tag here to movie list. Okay? And that should be movie list. Now let's save this. And as it says there, to indicate the HTML to display, the code that we see here sets a title property for the viewbag object. The viewbag object is something that's created at runtime, so it's dynamic. All right? And the layout template should use this value as part of the head section that we modified previously. Well, let's see if it worked. And notice we have movie list, okay? And we have movie list up here also. All right, great. And we still have MVC movie. So we changed it in our home page. Wow. All right. It says, using this viewbag type of approach, you can easily pass other parameters between the view template and the layout file. Now, one thing that's mentioned here, this is an important thing, is the author mentions in the article here, and I haven't been doing this, so that's why I want to mention it to you. Right here. The author says, run the application. Notice the browser title, the primary heading, and the secondary headings have changed. You already saw that, but to show it to you one more time, when we run this, you now see that when we do run it, all right, how it's changed to movie list here and how it changed to movie list up here. You saw that. All right, that's in our index page. All right. But the author also mentions here, if you don't see the changes right away, rather than doing an F5 to run the program, do the control F5. Because what happens when you do F5, if you make changes and you run the program and you don't see the changes, what could have happened is that your output could have been cached. So they're running an older copy of the program. By doing a control F5, it clears the cache and runs the most current copy. All right, so the browser title was created with the viewbag title. We already saw that. That was set in our index.cshtml file. And we've got that movie app that was added to the file. All right. Also notice, as mentioned here, right on the top of the screen, and on the bottom of page 13 in our handout, the author says, also notice how the content in the index.cshtml view template was merged with the layout, and a single HTML response was set to the browser. Layout templates make it relatively easy to make a change and have that stuff apply across pages. All right, I'm on page 14 of 18. And again, not apologizing here, but just telling you, how much time am I taking for each one of these videos? As much time as it takes to go over that article. The first article took about 10 minutes. The second one took almost 40 minutes. And with this one, I'm at 21 minutes, so I'm about halfway in between the first two. Okay, so it says our little bit of data, in this case, hello from view template, is hard-coded. The MVC application has a view, and you've got a C controller, but no model yet. That's going to be the next article that we go over. All right, before we go to a database and talk about models, let's first talk about passing information. Again, this is the bottom of page 14 in the handout. Let's first talk about passing information from the controller to a view. Controller classes are invoked in response to an incoming URL request. That's the routing that's taking place here. The controller class is where you write the code that handles the incoming browser request. It should also handle the retrieval of database data and ultimately decide the type of response to send back to the viewer. A view template can then be used to actually generate the associated HTML response. Controllers, as mentioned here on page 15 of this handout, that controllers are responsible for providing whatever data or objects are required in order for the view template to do its job. In other words, for it to render a response to the browser. Notice this best practice that they put in bold here. This is that separation of concerns that we talked about earlier. A view template should never perform business logic. That is the job of the model. The view template should never interact with a database directly. That's the job of the model. Rather, the view template should only work with the data that's provided to it by the controller via the model. Again, maintaining this kind of separation of concerns is what keeps your code clean, testable, more maintainable, and allows different people and possibly even different types of people to work on the model as opposed to the view, as opposed to the controller. All right, we're heading into the home stretch here of this particular article. Currently, the welcome action method in the Hello World controller class takes a name and a num times parameter, and then it outputs the values directly to the browser. Rather than having the controller do this as a string, we're going to change the controller so that it uses a view template instead. This view template, as mentioned here, will generate a dynamic response. What that means is it'll be something that's done at runtime. Sometimes when you hear of these terms, I'm just telling you, this is not in the article here. You'll hear of something that talks about being late binded versus early binded. When you talk about something that's dynamic that happens at runtime, it's late binded. When you talk about something that happens at compile time and cannot change when the program runs, that's early binded. Just so you hear, because you may hear the terminology. So the view template will generate a dynamic response, which means you need to pass the appropriate bits of information from the controller to the view in order to generate this correct response. We can do this by having the controller put the dynamic data in as parameters that the view template needs in a ViewBag object. Remember that ViewBag object is another thing that's created at runtime, and the template can then access it. So we're told here, halfway down on page 15, to return to our viewController.cs file and change the welcome method to add the message and the numTimes values to the ViewBag object. Again, ViewBag is a dynamic object, which means it has nothing in it until you put something in it. So you can put in it whatever you want to, need to, have to put in it. The ViewBag object, as mentioned there, has no defined properties until you put something inside of it. Then, and notice this is hyperlinked, the ASP.NET MVC model binding system will automatically map the named parameters, those being name and numTimes, from the query string in the address bar to the method parameters. So we're going to come in here and we're going to change our hello world controller.cs file so that it looks like what is shown in the article here. All right, so there's our hello world controller CS file. We want to come in here and change this particular method. So we've got our hello world controller. All right, so we're going to, right now, we're going to comment this line out. Whoops. And I'm going to comment this line out, and I'm going to comment that line out. So now everything's commented out. And I'm going to come in here then and say public action result index. Oh, we want this as the index. Nope, I'm sorry, that's the index one. We don't want that. We do want an action result though. We're not going to return a direct string in here. All right, we're going to return a view. So this is still welcome. And it still has our string name and our int numTimes. Let's go ahead and have it the way they have it in the book, so I will not have a default parameter here. All right? So what's going to change is inside of here, I'm now going to say ViewBag.message equals hello space plus name. All right, and ViewBag.numTimes equal numTimes. All right, then I want to come in here and I want to literally just return the associated view. And you notice now all of my squigglies go away. So what we did there is we added a ViewBag object. That ViewBag object contains data that will be passed to the view automatically. There's still a problem. All right? The problem is right now, if we go to our views and we look, we've got a hello world view, and that's cool. All right, we've got a hello world view, but we don't have a welcome view. So if we try to return this, I believe we get an error message. I don't even want to try it. All right, so what I want to do is in the build menu, they tell us to come in here, and in the build menu, really want us to do it here? Oh, we have to build our solution first. All right, they just tell you to go in there and build it. And the reason that you're told to come in here and build your solution first is that's doing some stuff behind the scenes that the system might need. All right, so then we want to right mouse click on our views Hello World folder. All right. and we want to click add, and we want to add another MVC 5 view page with layout razor. This is shown on page 16 of the handout. In the specify name that we see right here, we're going to now enter welcome. All right? And for our select a layout page, we're going to select the default. There it is. So we're going to come in here and we're going to add here, we're going to add some razor code. Nope, I'm sorry. Before we add the, let's do this. Before we add the razor code, all right, they want us to put in an H2 here that says welcome. All right. Then they want an unordered list. And in the unordered list, they want us to add some razor code. And we're going to put in here a for loop. And actually, they want us to do it like this. Don't worry, that this will be fixed in a minute. Int I equals 0, I less than viewBag dot num times I plus plus. Now we put in that. Okay. And we're going to put in an LI here. So again, we are interspersing everywhere that you see this, we're adding code, and we have here, we go back to HTML, so we want to add code, so we do it right there. Now, hopefully I didn't make any mistakes, okay? If I did, you're going to know right away. So I replaced the markup as shown on the bottom of page 17. Then on page 18, we're told to run the application. When we run the application, now this should bring up our main page, okay, with our index page actually, all right? But now we want to go to Hello World Welcome, but we want to add in here question mark name equal, I'll put in my name, ampersand num times equal, let's put in 10. And you notice I get that message, and that message, hello Jeff, that message right there is the message that we ended up building in our code. No, not right here. This is the logic that's telling it to print this out, all right? But the actual message itself, that's what was, in here, in our Hello World controller. So that's what we built, hello plus name, so that's the hello plus Jeff, and we told it to run num times, and if you remember, num times was 10. So now what's happened, as mentioned here on page 18 at the end of our handout, in fact, let's jump back to the handout here. Is the author says here, now data is taken from the URL and passed to the control using the model binder. Again, that's hyperlinked. The controller packages the data into a viewBag object, passes that object to the view, and displays the name, prefaced by the word hello and a space, and it does it what we specified in there as the number of times. So in this example, name was passed in, and it's Scott, so you get the hello Scott. Num times is 4, so it runs 4 times. In the sample above, as mentioned here, we used a viewBag object to pass data from a controller to the view. Later on, or latter on, as they mentioned, I guess they didn't proof that well, in the tutorial, we will use a view model to pass the data from a controller to a view. The view model approach is generally preferred. If you want to know this, we'll talk later about dynamic versus strongly typed views. I would strongly suggest that you take a look at that blog entry on that. All right, in fact, if I go and open it up in a new link, you'll see dynamic versus strongly typed views. All right, that was we kind of used a model there, but we didn't do anything with a database. So what we're going to do is, so far, we've got this project that's called MVC Movies. And guess what? It isn't doing a flippin' thing with movies. So we're going to change that in the next handout here, or the next lesson, which is a very short lesson. And it's on adding a model. So we're going to be adding a model to our project. So we've now, in the second lesson, we added the controller. In this third lesson, we added the view. Then in the fourth lesson that's coming up, we're going to add the model. We will do that. We will do that shortly. See you soon.